think we're ready to get started. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. First order of business is to verify quorum through roll call vote. Mr. Montoya, are you present?
Present.
Board member Christina Aspris.
Ms. Aspis, could you say present?
Here.
Board President Suzette Haskey.
I'm here. I'm present. Thank you.
Ms. Karen Montoya. And I'm present, so we have 5 board members present. We have quorum. Next order of business is reports. First up is number 1, Impact Aid, Policies and Procedures by Dr. Belinda Begay. Dr. Begay, go ahead, lead us.
Oh, there you go. Yat a shikeda shidena. Adet da isinol ai shea Berlinda began shiedo but ahnin shlino tratnesani bashish chin kitachitni dashichedo shin dashanala. Good evening, board president, vice president, board members, and Superintendent Carlson. Tonight I'm going to talk address the Indian policies and procedures. This is a required document for our impact aid application. And the purpose in terms of why this, we call it IPP, Indian Policies and Procedures, is to let all stakeholders of CCSD be aware that there's different ways that our district and our departments communicate with parents and stakeholders. And so this process begins with our JOM Indian Education Committee, our IEC. They're the ones who review this document first and make revisions as needed based on the areas that they represent, the regions. And if they feel there's something that needs to be revised or added or edited, then they do it during that meeting. So what you have right now in front of you is what was approved by them at our last IEC meeting. And so the next process is for the board to approve this document, and this document is attached to the impact aid application that's due in about 3 weeks. And I stand for questions.
Question. So reviewing it, are there any addendums, changes? I know it's pretty standard form in respects to that there's slight changes to every year, depending on what the Fed's asking, but what we have.
Yes, thank you, board member Montoya. The only changes that were made were the school year and the names and towards the back for the approval process. And then when the meeting took place and the approval that was done by IEC, and also this is standard. I guess it's a standard wording that the federal government provides and sends out to all schools, but we modify it to make it unique to our district and our demographics.
Okay, the follow-up I have on there is, there's, according to the agenda, there's no action to be taken on it this evening, so I'm to assume it's going to happen at the regular board meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Gary, question? can you kind of give me an idea of what he asked, and then because something you said in there, it makes me form another question.
Board member Montoya asked if there were any revisions that were made besides the annual changes like the school year or names that are on the IPP. And I did let him know that at the last IEC meeting, there weren't any changes besides the year and the current officers' names of this document.
And that's on the, what is the title again?
The document? It's the Indian School Year 2025-26 Impact Aid Indian Policies and Procedures.
And I just wonder why there is no, you were saying that state uses standard language to the policy, and then it's up to the districts to modify and make it more acclimated to our, our needs or whatever. But I just wonder why there was no changes, no revision because of the, especially what has happened federally, and with the funding and impact aid being one of them.
Are you done, board member Aspis? Okay, so a lot of this information in this document, like I shared, the federal government provides like a standard wording that they feel is sufficient. And so that, I guess, template is sent to schools, and they use those wordings that they is in compliance with this document. So in terms of adding our information, it's really information regarding, I'll read that first part. The intent of CCSD is that all Indian children of school age have equal access to all programs, services, and activities offered within the school district. To this end, CCSD will consult with tribes and their designated representatives within CCSD boundaries and parents of Indian children in the planning and development of Indian policies and procedures, general education programs and activities. These policies and procedures will be reviewed annually. So in that, the first step, like I shared earlier, was that the IEC review this policy, and if they feel like they need to add any updates or anything, that's when that happens. Did that answer your question?
About a whole lot of questions, and that's primarily what I'm trying to say is that with the recent administration change and the fact that we didn't know if we were going to have funding and when, such as for JOM and impact aid, it would seem like there would be some insurance and on the state end. Is this coming from the state? Is the flow
Board Member Aspis, this is coming from the federal level, the impact aid.
Even more so, I would think there would be some assurance, and we can't. I don't know. If, when you say the word standard, I keep thinking of just as you said, a template that everybody's just blindly accepting, and then they just rush along and say, okay, we got it. We got it dealt with and read, and let's just go. We can't. I feel like it's our responsibility to ask these kind of questions and say, hold on, because there's been a lot of things that has happened, and we can no longer operate like that. Just as the some of the other presentations that we've gone through, one in particular was safety. I want to know who has actually read the entirety, the documents entirety, and to blindly and whose confidence are we operating under? Because I don't see that happening, and we're just year after year, annually, we're just passing something along, and really don't take time to reread it, understand, and then even to counter if we need to. There's a lot that's happened.
Board Member Aspis, is that a question or a comment?
That's a question.
Board President, may I answer? This is German.
Go ahead, Ms. Chappelle.
Thank you, sir. So this document is a standard document. I have reviewed it in the past. It is consistent with federal law. It doesn't have anything extra in it except what's required by federal law. So this document is a standard document. There are no changes except for our CCSD specific identifying information, but the rest of it is consistent with the impact aid law and this requirement in federal law. I can give a bigger presentation on that on Tuesday if you like.
Yeah, I guess my comment is really is pretty much what you had said, Ms. Chappelle, that this IPP is really just it's a standard document, that it's nothing out of the ordinary, and that's pretty much the same IPP that's been approved by this board in past years. And the only thing that has changed is the date. Is that correct? And this document accompanies our impact aid application. All that other stuff that has been discussed, that's a separate issue, but this is really just to approve the IPP that would go with our application.
Yes,
Okay.
Dr. Begay,
yes.
can you repeat what Jermaine had said? I couldn't hear her.
Ms. Chappelle indicated that this is a standard document, and she did review it. And in terms of your question on the funding, it doesn't, it's not associated with the funding part of it. It's a document that's attached to the impact aid application. Yes, and so there's required documents that go with the application, and that's one of this is this document. The others include like the certifications of the physical addresses from each chapter. That one's what provides the funding.
Okay, the policies and that's what I'm asking about. I don't like it being set as standard because to me, I feel like we never really look into what we're passing, and we just take for granted that it's somebody has read it and we're going on someone else's confidence, and I think with things that have come about and what we've seen, there's room for us to make it, have our word, or instead of just passing it and then move on. I think at this time there was not at this time, but when funding was taken back, such as JOM, and we really weren't certain of what the future was, and I think we need to put it there and request, that districts are not in that same situation again when next administration change, or I think that's an opportunity for us, and so that we know for certain how those such as JOM and how ICO can operate, and we're not having to be careful, I guess, and worry about those different departments.
May I add something?
Go ahead, Mr. Montoya.
I think all this document is showing that we're in compliance with the process and procedures of the act itself.
I'm also going to have to echo the same sentiment, and to my knowledge, this document has been approved by this board, and I believe Ms. Aspas may have voted to approve IPPs, pretty much the same document as it has been in the past. So there really is no change. There's nothing hidden or sinister. There's no covert agenda that I sense within something that's pretty standard as the IPP. So in that respect, I think it's ready to be approved.
May I also add something? I think
Go ahead,
there's a
Ms.
misunderstanding. At this, like Mr. Montoya mentioned, this document says that we as a school district will, when we're making changes or what we're doing with the impact aid, will be in communication with our stakeholders. It's saying that we're providing opportunity for our parents to have a voice, our community to have a voice, and the tribe to have a voice, that when we do things that we're with the impact aid, especially, that we're allowing our stakeholders to comment and participate in whatever we're going to be doing with the funding. So that's just all it's saying, is that as a school district, we're in compliance and allowing our stakeholders to have that voice in decisions that are being made, utilizing those funds. If that makes, if that clarifies anything.
May I comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Aspas.
Maybe if I say it this way, we could use this opportunity later on, and so that's primarily what I'm saying. How come we're not taking the opportunity?
Board Member Aspis, if I can add to what you're asking. So in this document does indicate that we're providing opportunities for these stakeholders to have that voice. For example, we have our 2 Navajo Nation tribal consultations, which is required for federal funding. That's over 40,000. Plus, we also have our family community engagement sessions. We have JOM surveys and JOM IEC monitoring visits. So in these cases, in terms of like what happened with JOM, we have been communicating that information out there, and we're asking for feedback. For example, another example is the culture policy. We're asking for feedback. So that's what this document is saying, that we're providing those opportunities to share the information to our stakeholders, but they also have an opportunity to be part of these types of revisions if needed, if they have anything, input, feedback, recommendations, as these opportunities are given to them.
Okay, and you know, again, we were lucky to have impact aid when we did, and especially when closures happen. And we know that as a district and people that are from this area, we know this. And so I feel like impact aid really helped us and kept us above the water. But we don't need that uncertainty when the administration changed and they withheld. And I think this would be a perfect opportunity to send that back and say, you know, these are some of the hardships that we encountered, and this is what we're doing, and really make them understand that we do count on that money.
Board Member Aspis, I know that at NAFIS, the conference that happens in the fall and the spring, they do provide those opportunities to share that type of information from schools to share with the communities that receive impact aid funding in terms of how it has helped their schools or districts. And so they have the opportunity to do that. I'm not sure if you've attended a NAFIS conference, but they do have the opportunity to share that information. So that could be a possibility. In fact, I remember we did 2 presentations before about our district. We talked about transportation and like the muddy roads and how this funding helps with that. So that could be something that could be done if that's what you're requesting.
Yes, everything needs, I mean, we can't second guess anymore. This administration, from the looks of it and from the news, it talks about accountability. And if we have an opportunity, we need to share, you know, and show, you know, what we use that money for and how important it is for us. And I just lost my train of thought on something else you said. Oh, for that base
Okay, thank you, Board Member Asmus. I believe we've taken a lot of the comment, and I believe that our administration is going to take a lot of the comments and have that developed separately as another process. But as I understand the IPP, it's really it's approving these policies that will accompany our impact aid application. But the advocacy work that you're talking about, I believe that's something that our district is always working on. So they're both interrelated in that regard, but for purposes of trying to get our IPPs approved, this is what it is, and it is in the board packet for your review.
May I make one more comment?
Go ahead, Ms.
Hello?
Aspis.
It was so easy for us to, with the administration that was for us. And there was, for an administration that was for us, it was so easy for us to just pass things and not take an eagle eye look at and understand the whole language. Now that we're with the administration that wants possibly to dissolve or go around our sovereignty, we need to take more look at this and be certain of what we're sending back. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Aspis. Thank you for your comments.
Board President, I'm happy to respond with some reassurance if you like.
Go ahead, Ms. Chabelle.
Board Member Astor, thank you for raising those concerns. I have looked at the document very closely, and it does not include any information in there that would be concerning. It literally just takes the law and is a requirement for us to have in order to get impact aid. So it is very straightforward. I have looked at it, and I'm happy to provide a more thorough explanation of this on Tuesday. My understanding is it's not up for vote tonight. Is that correct, Board Vice President?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is just for tonight, and it gives everybody time to go back and read the document for further review on Tuesday.
Ms. Chappelle,
Yes, sir.
I did ask that question, and there is no action on it this evening. It will be approved next Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I meant to say Thursday, not Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be approved at our Thursday meeting or next week. Okay. If there's no further questions, I believe we can move on. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Next up is the attendance report. Mr. Deswood.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Carlson, colleagues, and those online. We are here to present the December attendance report. Next slide. So we're happy to report the district average had a slight increase from November. So November we had 89.4 present. For December, we had 20.2 present. So we only had 3 schools decrease. The following schools made gains: Eva B., Judy Nelson, Kirtland Central High School, Kirtland Elementary School, Mesa Elementary, Noshchitty Elementary, Newcomb Elementary, Najoni Elementary, Newcomb Middle School, Oho, Shiprock High School, and TBA Middle School. Next slide. So this is our chronic absenteeism. This is from August 6th through December 31st. So although our chronic absenteeism increased by 1% from 32.8 in November to 33.5 in December, 5 schools decreased. Shiprock High School, Newcomb Middle School, Nijoni Elementary, Nosh Chitty Elementary, and Kirtland Elementary School. And that's our December absenteeism report.
Any questions or comments, board members?
Question. So my understanding is we have a new attendance coordinator.
That is correct. That was gonna be our next thing was, Tia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, board and attendees. My name is Tia Johnson. I'm the attendance coordinator. I started on December 18th and then took the break, and now I'm back. And I'm really excited to work on reducing our absenteeism and working with many departments so far. And I'm really excited to share with you in the coming weeks how much we've improved in spreading awareness for the entire district. Tomorrow I'm actually going to be attending the Drums of Winter to set up a table and to meet some of the families. But I do look forward to sharing more with you about our attendance campaign, and I'm very excited to be back working in Central Consolidated. Thank you.
Another question.
Mr. Montoya?
So I'm to assume, Mr. Diswood, that she's going to be working directly with the principals at all the locations?
That is correct. She's been meeting with them lately. She's read the attendance grant that was written. Her position is completely funded with the attendance grant. The next step of this, the PED wanted us to build capacity with the attendance coordinator first, and then this next coming year, the grant is written to hire 3 attendance liaisons that Ms. Johnson will supervise, but so that each region has their own attendance liaison.
Okay, so what other ancillary support is the PED going to get, not just through the funding in and of itself, but directly to the district to help with that?
Well, they don't have any other. Actually, there are a couple of schools that have coaches. Sebeta Middle School has a discipline. They actually wrote a disciplinary literacy grant, so they actually have a coach that supports them. And then we have another school, Mesa Elementary, that also has a coach provided by the Public Education Department. So both schools actually, it's a literacy grant. Both schools wrote grants to get this additional support. Those are the ones we have focused specifically on improving instruction and also decreasing disciplines.
The way that it's written through the PED, is it pretty broad as far as being able to utilize that funding or the creativity within the communities themselves?
So specifically for the attendance position, the team, we met with principals, we got input from them. We met with school staff as well for the type of support that they were needing. And the biggest thing that they said was we need boots on the ground. We need someone that can, I don't know if you remember 10, 15 years ago before the compulsory attendance law changed and we became lax. There used to be, what do they call them, truancy officers? Well, Tia's not a truancy officer, but like they wanted someone to be able to support them whenever they get to like tier 4 interventions before they are referred to CYFD or Navajo Nation PD or the county on this to the east. So it's really to get in there. In fact, Tia and I talked today. There's one school that's going to need some additional support. The schools tried to reach out to the family. They're not responding. So she's actually going to go and do a home visit with a staff member and then an LSA just for safety to go and try to connect with the family and try to really identify, nail down why their kids not coming to school. So that's essentially what was written within the grant. So it was all based on the need of our district.
Your comment about the compulsory really incites another question. Is that mirror or in conjunction with the Navajo Nation's compulsory laws?
Sir, I'm not sure if the Navajo Nation has compulsory attendance laws. They do?
They do.
I tell you what, when we've met with the Navajo Nation, one of the things that we've really advocated for is support for when schools refer do like a scan report to CYFD or social services. There, in our region, there's actually only one individual that serves the whole entire like Crown Point and up north this way. So that's a lot of ground and a lot of schools that that person has to cover, which I understand there's infrastructure and resources that are lacking. But if you look at those reports, you can see a distinction, like a distinct line between 90% and then we're lacking this way and then down this way, right down to the south. And that's directly related to resources. I mean, that's why whenever we wrote that attendance grant, that's why the focus was on we need someone to help us, like a principal and assistant principal, our liaisons, right? They're stretched thin. That's why Tia's position was created, is just to provide that additional support for principals in schools.
The label truancy certainly is applicable in that respect to the accountability process for the parents and the families. So,
absolutely. I think one other thing I wanted to mention is the focus of the position isn't on like to punish them, right? We really need to try to find like what we can do to bring that kid back into the school. Whether if it's, a lot of times, when I was a principal, we always found that, especially our high school kids, I just got kicked out. So then we need to connect them with like Dr. Harvey's position. In fact, that was the next step that I had asked Ms. Johnson to do, was to meet with Dr. Harvey and Ms. Brown to see how we can like overlap and provide support from the departments. Because if there's a family or a kid that's not coming to school because they're hungry, well, we need to get backpacks to those kids. Or actually, I was meeting with Mr. Paniagua, well, one of the principals, and one of the things they said that one of the kids didn't want to come to school because they didn't have clean clothes, right? So there's an example where our program, our homeless program, can provide support for these kids, right? Go and take them shopping. But that's what the purpose of the position is to really flip it from being to punish the kids versus we need to find a way to get these back. We need to understand the real cause of why these kids are not coming to school.
Yeah, and I was just using that word just for definition purposes and the extent of, as they say in education, meet the kids where they are. That applies to their attendance, to their environment, because that's one area we don't have control of. But at the same time, that's the sole purpose of the ICO and, quite frankly, community schools working together to try to be able to meet them where they are, to get them back into the schools and educated, because that's the most powerful tool that these students and these families have, is that education.
Sir, that is exactly right. Like if you look at Newcomb High and also Newcomb Middle School, with Mr. Carlson, we actually have a grant with the Department of Health where they're actually going to support those two schools, because those are two schools who need some like additional support from the DOH. And like oftentimes whenever I talk with Dr. White or Ms. Manuelito at those schools, one of the things they say is the high school kids, if they have to go to Farmington or Shiprock or Gallup to get health, right, to get seen by doctors, any medical treatment, dental. But what happens is if the middle school child or the elementary child has to go, who ends up going? The teenager, the high school kid. So that's why, like, we're trying to make sure that these grants are supporting the kids at their, like you said, at the most basic need.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Montoya.
Forgive me, I haven't gone over the attendance policy just yet. I was wondering how many absences does it take for Tier 4 intervention to occur?
So Tier 4 is anything that is above 10%. So 11% to 20% and above is Tier 4. So it's essentially, so if you look at, there's 180 school days. If 10%, that means a kid can miss 18 days. So once they go 18 and above, then that student is considered chronically absent. Which, the reason why we do average daily attendance as well is because what average daily attendance captures is if a kid is parent verified, then there's a reason why, whether it's medical or dental, or they might have counseling services somewhere. So that's why we also do average daily attendance, because that's where the excuse from the parents is captured.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Asmus, you had a question.
I'm on the laptop now. Get on the speaker. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, Pete, you might give Steve his phone back.
I gave it, he picked it up.
Okay. My question is, as you talked about chronic and then someone else just before me asked the question about fear level. And so my question is, what is chronic? How many absenteeisms do you have to have in order to be chronic?
Okay, that's a good question. It's 18 days or more in a school year. So if you look at our presentation, what's happening is it's real-time data that's collected each month. So if let's say a kid last month had 10% of 90, so had 9 absences in November, and then they got to December and they were below 10%. That's how some of these schools decrease their chronic absentee rate, because that rate continues to move throughout the year. But what happens is once they get to the end of the school year, then that's the number that we'll report to the public education department. But for purposes, kind of like we do data to stay current on where we're at, these reports are sent to principals as soon as Ms. Oh my gosh, Ms. Connolly and her department print them, because they have to report whenever the principals are reflecting and reviewing their attendance improvement plans. They have to talk about the data. And some of these schools, like I said, I met with Mr. Panyagua, and he met with Ms. Johnson, and he really needs additional support. So that's where Ms. Johnson's like, I really need to focus and work on with career prep at Newcomb High School, so that we kind of divert those resources to support those schools like additionally. So yeah, but 18 or more for the entire school year. Thank you.
Okay, and then that tier level, what's 10%?
So 10% is 10% of, yes, is 18. So with the way the attendance plans are written, so tier 1 support is going to be support for all students. In fact, Jared, Mr. Noble back there helps us with a lot of advertising. We have a Be Here Now campaign that we have to be a part of. That's one of the requirements with the attendance grant. And then it goes to 5%, which is like maybe 5% of absences. So if it's 18, so it's 9. So then support is provided at each level. So 0 to like, I think 5% is tier 1, 5 to like 10% is tier 2, and then tier 3 is like, I think it was like 20 to 29, and I believe tier 4 was 29 and above. So there's a lot of things that the school, and by the way, those tier 1 through tier 4 interventions are very specific for each school. Like in previous years, we had a district plan where this was done at each tier, but with the way the attendance plans were the portal and the way attendance plans are written, it's individualized each of the schools, kind of similar to the 90-day plans. In fact, they are very similar. It's all based on root cause analysis. So very, very individualized, and that's one of the things Ms. Johnson has been doing, is reviewing those attendance improvement plans for each school. Thank you.
Also what was I we're talking about the tier, and at what point do you send out a person?
So it would be tier 4 support. that's whenever the attendance coordinator will step in and meet with the family and meet with the students to identify the barriers that are preventing them from coming to school, and then try to re-engage them to come back. In fact, one of the things I just saw an email about incentives to bring some of these kids back. By the way, that's one of the things, like if we send kids to engage in New Mexico, one of the things they do is they provide them these tickets to earn prizes. So if they come to school for a week, they head literally, or this group, Engage New Mexico, sends these kids these tickets, and then they go into these drawings. It's essentially they're like paying them to come to school. And those are typically our tier 4 students that have missed, like I think it was 40 or 45 days or more in the school year. So they're trying to really engage. And by the way, I think that one focuses specifically on graduating seniors there. Thank you.
Okay, do we have still the where if a student is tardy, say 3 times, and then that equates to 1 absent, is that still a practice?
Yes, that is. So that actually goes, even if they're tardy and they come in, that will count under average daily attendance, not chronic absenteeism. So in order to be considered chronic, in order for it to be an absence, they'd have to miss more than 3/4 of a day. So example, if you check out your kid or your kid comes an hour late, that's not considered chronically absent. Or if you check out your kid, the last period of the day to go to an appointment, that's not considered chronically absent, as long as they're here for 3/4 of the day.
Even though the last class may be a math, a core class?
That is correct, because it's considered total like absences for an entire day.
So the, I guess the discipline or the coaching that takes place is geared more to absenteeism than tardies that equal to that level 4 absenteeism.
That is correct, Ms. Aspis. It's the coach will provide support for students who are above that 10% threshold, meaning 18 absences in a school year, which we have some. We've had kids that already have 35 absences, and I met with the principal of the student basically since the beginning of the year has come to school. Like our families know this. So what happens is if the student misses 10 consecutive days, they can be dropped, right? That's based on the state policies. But because we're a public school, that kid can come and re-enroll the very next day and come right back into school, because we're a public school and we can't deny education to a student, right? So some of these families know, oh, we got to go 9 days now, get back to school, and then 9 days. And I don't know if you know to realize that we have tax season coming up. Now kids are starting to come to school because their families are like, you better get to school because you got to be counted so we can claim you for taxes, which was a discussion I had at one of the schools a couple of days ago. Was that some of the families have started to be engaged. Thank you.
That's a big assumption. But the way I've seen this, I think there's faults on both sides, and sometimes the as if I was a teacher, I think I would be alarmed if the student was missing, say, even the second day or maybe even the third day. But to wait until 10 days and then also there's been incidents where parents have reached out to the board, and even a former board member reached out, and though the student
was gifted and was excelling scholastically, was asked to leave the school because of absenteeism, being labeled as a chronic absenteeism. And I don't think it was during tax season either. But to me, I feel like, you know, that in itself was where the fault was on the district. And we need to find ways to work with that, because you know, these are our children, and one can be swayed easily negatively, and you know, I'm sure they're putting in effort and trying their best, but for whatever reasons, and we can't assume, and looking at the different policies, you know, we don't even have one set policy that everybody abides by. We're finding out that a school may have a different set of policies. And then there's the district policy. And then wherever you're getting your guidance from as far as chronic absenteeism, maybe Cornwell, we need to know all of these things, what all factors in, because some of these things are being misread and not followed through correctly. And I'm trying to be careful with my words, but I think you get the feeling of where I'm coming from.
Okay, any more questions or comments, board members, on the attendance?
I do. I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead, Ms. Askey.
I had a question in regards, kind of on the same line as Ms. Askis. Do we differentiate with students with 504s, medical needs, due to chronic illnesses? What kind of resources do we provide? Are we coordinating care with our local hospitals, clinics? What kind of efforts are we making to help our students when they have high absenteeism due to illnesses?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we do put kids on 504s. In fact, our 504 pseudo coordinator is on. Ms. Booth Clark, did you want to provide some detailed information regarding 504 support? Ann, can you hear me? So I know of one incident right now, actually two. We do have two students currently on 504s. We'll give too many specifics, but we do work with the family. I think that's the reason for the 504 being put in place. If a student has medical, who needs some medical support, and again, it does go through a process where the family does come in. Or, for example, if Tia was to go and meet with the family saying that this is what's going on medically, what do we need to do at that point? Then a 504 would be put in place for that student so that they can, so anytime they're going for any treatment, then those absences are excused. So yeah.
I have a follow-up question in regards to that. When you educate parents, I guess more of a comment, and I hope that we are providing brochures or like documents to help our parents navigate that system. Because we have a lot of parents who don't know that those are options, that they rather have their kids at home and not disclose the illnesses because they don't know. How active, I guess there is a question, how active are we in educating our parents in regards to those things? Are we providing for enrollment in, when they're enrolling the students, are we providing documentation so that they're aware that those resources are available? Or are we waiting till 10 days to determine if they would qualify for 504 or that they can get services?
So in previous years, there was not a concerted effort or a campaign to raise awareness as far, regarding chronic absenteeism and any issues related to absenteeism. That's some of the components of the attendance grant that was written. In fact, that's a requirement. Tia has met with Jared. Jared has been sending out advertisements. In fact, part of the budget with the grant was to set aside money for Jared, our public information office, to raise awareness. We actually just submitted a report on January 6th to the Public Education Department, and the amount of advertisements that have gone out has increased substantially. Would you agree, Jared? Jared said yes. But like I said, I mean, these numbers haven't been good in the last couple of years. That's why the Public Education Department set aside $6 million for 10 districts to apply for the funding. So that's why there's such an effort. I mean, there's a lot more data that's being collected, and one of the requirements is to present to you all monthly. Mr. Carlson was in on one of them. The district was actually recognized by the PED for the process that we have in place to review school attendance plans, which we had a committee review attendance plans and provide support. So we were recognized for that for December. But with the emphasis on the numbers, I mean, one of the biggest things is what gets measured gets done. And as we're measuring data and the emphasis that's placed on chronic absenteeism, and most importantly, raising awareness of what chronic absenteeism is. And I think that's one thing when we did root cause analysis, was that our families don't know that if they get 10 absences or more, it's considered chronic absenteeism. So that's a big of that Be Here, Be Now campaign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Aspis.
So you gave an example of a student with no clean clothes. What was the remedy?
So one of the remedies the school did was, come and shower at the school, or come in. There's a laundry, there's a washer and dryer here. Bring your clothes. We can get your clothes washed here. And then one of the comments I had made to the principals, we'll reach out to Dr. Harvey and her group to see if we need to provide additional clothing for the student. And I think that's part of the support that's in place, is really trying to identify why these students are not coming to school, and then understanding where those support and getting the student plugged into the support that we have within the district.
And was this an initiative by Ben Ray Lujan as far as the community? I forget what it was titled.
Ms. Haspis, I'm not sure if it was Ben Ray Lujan. I know that The state legislature did approve $6 million for this attendance improvement initiative. So then 10 school districts were invited to apply for the $6 million. And we were one of the districts that were selected to move forward with funding.
Maybe one of the board members would know, but this, I think it started with community something. I can't remember what the title was, but it's supposed to be inner help within the schools and for the community or something like that. And also, okay, the letters that you do send out, how do they read? Do you have a letter on hand that that is sent out to a family or the parents?
We can provide a copy of that to you. I don't have one in front of me, but I can definitely send one your way.
Okay, does it go by a timeline, or if your student doesn't show up within so many days, then da da da? How does that letter go?
So they're sent out when a student has 3 absences, 3-day, 5-day, and then 10-day.
I might add, we also send out, it's called a postcard. It's sent out to all students once a month, and it actually highlights the positive attendance aspect of things. Your student was present this many days, so it kind of it highlights both. If they've been absent and if they've been present. So that's the first of every month.
Okay, when does guardian notification happen? At 10 days or when?
3, 5, and 10 days, and once every month, the beginning of the month.
Has there been any suggestions on, I know it's a statewide initiative now. I see it at our conferences, how they're wanting to improve absenteeism. And so I'm wondering how, has there been any suggestions or do we just follow whoever's plan, or whose plan are we following? Is this a policy dated back in 87 in the 80s, or what? Whose policy are we following?
Are you referring to attendance plans, Ms. Aspis?
Yes.
So attendance plans are written based on root cause analysis by each school. That's why the attendance plans are unique to each school, as opposed to the in previous years there was a overall district attendance plan that schools essentially copied into their portal. But there's been an update to the way the attendance improvement plans are written, and like I said before, they're very similar to the way 90-day plans are written. The school and their staff have to have a lot of input into how they are, because if we just went with what the public education department or the state said, no one's going to do it. That's why there's ownership with the schools writing these plans with their teams.
Well, that's a first. I wasn't aware of that. And most since the 80s, you know, their kids have gone to school and graduated, and now their kids are sending the grandkids to school, and we're still thinking that that the policies are pretty much the same. But so is it fair to say that when principals are changed, those policies may change?
So the compulsory attendance law was changed, I believe, like 2017, 16, 17. Prior to that, there was one of the initiatives was, the way the law was written was there was more accountability on the parents. And if kids didn't come to school, they would get I think $100 or $200 fine if they were reported. But prior, I think in San Juan County, I remember going to the county attendance meetings, and one of the things they said was there was only like 2 or 3 parents that were actually fined in however long, maybe 5 or 6 years that the attendance policy was there. I know, I mean, probably when I went to school and many of you went to school, there were always truancy officers cruising around town, so people were afraid to not be caught, you know, walking around. But if you look at the compulsory attendance law, it became really like lax, and I think whenever we met with the state in the last couple of years, that's one of the recommendations is that compulsory attendance law needs to be updated, because all it does is it puts more accountability on the school. But the school, if there's no teeth to a law, nothing's done. Essentially what it says is you have to document that you provided support for students before they are dropped. And if you have that you know, those layers of interventions that you provided, those 4 layers of intervention, as long as you've done those, the public education department is okay. Thank you.
I believe as a district where we saw the biggest increase was when COVID happened, and since then we haven't rebounded. So I right now, to you know, to the statistics, what it shows as far as related to absenteeism, I mean, it could now after COVID, it could be anything. And then the closures, and we have more of grandparents being the primary parents, guardians of their kids. And so some way or another, and I was glad the question was asked about the how are the grandparents or the guardians educated, because I think that's a big thing, because now that we're going more into technology, even Zoom meetings and YouTube and things like that, how many are being left behind, and still we don't stop and acknowledge that, and that's from the board level all the way down. We don't wait for them. It's I guess more or less tough, you know, and then it's not even academics, it's even into sports. So, and who wants to be the one to stand up and say, I don't know, or help? Then I think that's a human nature problem. You know, nobody really wants to say that.
Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, we can probably move on. Thank you, Mr. Teswood. Next up is item C, the public hearing date by Jermaine Chappelle. Ms. Chappelle.
Yes, good evening, board members and community members in attendance. We are having a community meeting with the board, a special board meeting to discuss the draft cultural policy on January 20th, and turn it over to superintendent for further details.
All right, Mr. Carlson?
Before you go any further, could I get the board get a letter example of that attendance that goes out to the parents, please?
Yes, we can do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just to go ahead and let people know exactly what's happening, there is a survey now that is available. I believe there's a link on the website, and anyone can access that. We invite parents, we invite board members, we invite community members, staff members to click on that link and to take that survey. And then our response to that is we're going to compile all that data and we're going to present it on the 20th at that special board meeting, and then let the board decide how they want to move forward.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I think it was in the best interest for the community to allow for the 30 days, that if the board agrees that we go over the survey results at the February work session. That would allow our community to read the document that's online, and then also be able to comment and fill out their surveys with the comments. If the board agrees.
If I may.
Go ahead,
So,
Mr. Montoya.
that is exactly what I was going to suggest, because with all fairness to what we had decided, the 20th does not give that 30-day timeline appropriately to the community. And so I concur with Ms. Haskey in granting that amount of time at the work session to give us enough time to gather everything in a manner that is cogent, and so that we can look at it, review it, and then use that information to make a decision. Not necessarily on that day at the work session, but the following regular board meeting in February.
I agree.
I have a comment, please.
Okay, Ms. Haskins.
I say, whoa, Nelly, again. Mainly because, well, my first question, who created the, I'm not calling you Nelly, Gary. I'm sorry, or anybody, Nelly, just this expression, but who created the survey is my question first.
And I'll go ahead and answer the best I can. Basically, the board created it through the last board meeting and the comments that were made, and sort of it goes along with the policy that has been developed thus far, that has had 2 readings. And the survey, I don't know if have you seen the survey yet, Ms. Haskins?
What part was because I don't recall being asked to provide a question.
It was just general guidance from the board and the direction from the last meeting that was developed.
And then also I got phone calls about the clarity and the understanding of the questions. There was, I guess they were pretty mixed and didn't understand where it was leading to. And so I chose not to do the survey because I wanted to know who created it. because I feel like it's biased if it's within our district. And it would have been, but then again, I have no solution or no name to say who would be the best one to form that create that survey. And I only say that is so to recognize the diversity of the district. That's the only reason why I say that. And so to me, I feel like if we're putting all our money on that survey and to see what the outcome is, then I think it needs to be approached fairly, very fairly, and it needs to be vetted by somebody on the outside.
Okay, do you have a suggestion?
No, I don't. I think the only solution that offhand right now is looking at Pat, the lawyer that retired. With some knowledge of Indian affairs, Indian policies, and of our district. But yeah, I really have no solution to who.
If I have any comment, I think we need to trust our staff. I mean, they're doing the work of the board. And I believe we gave clear guidance at the last meeting that what our expectations were. And I believe the surveys, if you've actually gone through them, they're pretty, I don't think they're biased. They're asking open-ended, even general questions, trying to focus the conversations into what's being asked to talk about the policy. So for myself, I'm comfortable with trusting our staff to do the job of the board in this case, to give us feedback as we had asked.
Thanks for that. I wonder if the board would want to, at the next meeting, take the time to look at some of the questions and perhaps make changes if need be.
I would say if that's going to keep us with that 30-day window, then certainly I think if we all went through it prior to that and submitted any considerations of changes or questions, then I think that would be the reasonable thing to do. But I certainly don't want to belabor the point of pushing out further and further and further. But I think that time frame of the suggestion of February is applicable and would work. But certainly I understand the questions that are being posed and the concerns that are being posed. And my only issue with that survey was initially the amount of questions that were being asked, and I think it'd be a little bit more succinct and pointed. And yeah, they're open-ended questions as well, and that's fine, but I liked what I had seen with the questionnaire for the teachers, something to the point. So that's my, I would say 2 cents, but the pennies aren't valuable anymore, so can't use that.
So as I said, the board attorney, yes, we gave her permission, but looking back, I mean, that keeps being used as the overall different events that have come up in different situations, subjects that have come up. We didn't give her over, or unless one board member wants to move over and let her have their seat. And I'm not willing to share my seat. But we're the board, and yes, she has a clear vision of what the board goals and our vision is, but not in everything. But to say that in itself again, and if that's the person that created this survey, it is biased.
Board President, may I clarify?
Go ahead, Ms. Chabelle.
I had nothing to do with the survey. I have not seen the survey. I only did what the board asked me to do, which was draft a policy for the board review. I've done nothing else.
With that said, Jermaine, do you have an idea of who could help us with this that would be more fair?
My apologies. I lost connection. I didn't hear the response. My apology.
I was just asking if you may know of who could help with this survey, and so that we approach it in a fair manner and not biased. And I was suggesting maybe Pat, but I don't know. I have no idea.
My understanding is that Miss Ives has retired. That would definitely be up to you all to decide if that's what you want to do. And I'm happy to support in any way I can.
May I make a comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Haskey.
I went over the survey and I don't feel it was biased. There's a lot of open-ended questions. I went through both the staff survey and the other survey, the community survey, and there's a lot of open-ended questions. If anything, one of the comments that I think I saw was that one was really lengthy, but that's been shortened. So they were very general questions. So I don't think, if anything, it's very general and really just soliciting for information. I don't know if any other board members have looked at the survey, because I went through it, both of them. If they could make their comments on that.
Yeah, I didn't bother with it after hearing the questions. And but I do want to ask, was there a question on whether they were non-native or native or their ethnicity?
Yes, Ms. Montoya.
In the first section of the parent and community survey, there's a question that says, what is your cultural background? And you can check all that apply, and it does say that it's optional to answer.
Yeah, because I'm only asking that because the already we heard the gentleman's voice from the last meeting, and being non-native and part of the staff, I figured that, you know, I don't know if he just represents himself or a group of people, or because I don't think anybody really wants to stand up and say, you know, when they're, you know, they may have some, they may be scared, and we truly want to find out through the survey, you know, and that's why if we're going to do this, we need to make sure it's very fair and not threatening, or and to let people know we really need their participation.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo some points out there. I mean, the surveys were all sent to all the board members by email, so if there's a time and opportunity to review, and they all seem pretty good. I'm comfortable with it. Okay, so going back on what we're talking about for reports, so the public hearing date is gonna be for January 20th, 2026. What is gonna be the time and date?
It sounds like the board wants to not have that meeting and make it February, or do you still want to have a January 20th?
I think the suggestion that was made by President Haskey to do it at the work session would give us that 30-day time period that we initially had agreed to, rather than a condensed version. And again, that creates the opportunity for everybody and anybody to give their opinions or comments, the surveys, and us to gather them and look at the aggregate and then start to formulate from those responses.
Okay.
Even now, as we're discussing this, I'm really glad that everybody's being patient with me and not jumping at me, because even this in itself is being helpful and shows the our audience that, you know, we really do and value their participation, and it's not just a Navajo culture, but, you know, as part of CCSD family, you know, they do count. Thank you.
If I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Montoya.
I appreciate that, Mrs. Assumpts, because again, you've heard me say this time and time again since we started this conversation about getting to a point of reasonability with this document. And I think that's the important part of it. And the fact that you've acknowledged the patients with you, you have every right to speak your positions in respects to your constituency and the district in its entirety as well. So absolutely, your comments are very valuable to that. And again, that's why I said I agree to the fact that we should wait until the work session in February to address it and look at those concerns in the aggregate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on this item? Okay, all right, we're down to item 338, items for the regular school board meeting. Board members, any items?
I do MOI for scores. Superintendent, you can have a presentation on that, please.
Yes, sir. So I did send out the scores to all the board members from the MOI for the
yes.
Interim and stuff. We're wanting to wait for the state scores. Will we have those? Can we just, will it be before Thursday?
Board members, I believe they come out on the 19th. Amy, can you correct me on that? If I'm wrong?
Who's that?
The scores for the state will close tomorrow, so we should receive them next week. So I'm pretty positive we can have it ready by Thursday.
And even if we didn't, Superintendent, at least to be able to show the community any progress that's being made within the district and in their schools.
Yes,
I'd
we
certainly
plan
would like
on
that.
presenting IMASA and Amira.
All right, thank
Yep.
you.
Excellent. I think based on that, do we have any assessment data at the high school? Because this only measures up to 8th grade. Do we have anything from the high school?
No, they don't have any testing currently. We are about to open our RETA access window. That opens next week, but that lasts over a month.
I guess what I'm asking is there, I mean, besides this assessment, is there anything else that we can see progress at the high school level, like for math or for ELA or science?
We actually do have Excel. They do progress monitor. We can see if we can pull that data to present as far as one of the things they look at is SAT math and reading, and then they give an assessment each month. And we can pull that and then we can present that. Yeah, we can pull something.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to do a couple of requests, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I would like information on what the graduation, the students that are graduating, what efforts are being made, how many are there going to be, so forth, as we usually do, and the progress that they're making and how many are in that cautionary area that need extra supports, and what kind of supports are going to be provided for those students to catch up. And then another topic, I would like the information in regards to the legislative priorities or the bills that are coming. I know that they're being filed right now, and by next week, what's there that would really be applicable or must need to know for our community in terms of the legislature, so that our community can listen in and also be active if necessary, if those could be, if we can get a little information on that. And then lastly, federal priorities, as Ms. Aspis had mentioned before, with impact aid and JOM, what kind of efforts can we do as a school district with NIA Hill next month? What kind of advocacy can we put together in regards to our federal priorities?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, board members?
Yes, I guess I'll get with President Haskell or Jermaine for a personnel question for executive session.
Okay, all right, thank you. If there's nothing else, yeah, if there's nothing else, we're down at adjournment.
Motion.
Motion by Mr.
I
Montoya.
second.
Second by Board Member Haskell Overly. All right, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Montoya.
Yes.
Ms. Montoya.
Yes.
Ms. Aspis.
Yes.
Ms. Haskell Overly.
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the vote is 5 in favor, 0 opposed, no abstentions. We're abstained. All right, we're adjourned at 7:07 p.m. Thank you.